Hello, it's Jonathan Wellham of Rocklink Investment Partners. I'm the president and CEO of Rocklink. And let me just give you a quick update in terms of our own investment philosophy and approach. And then I'm going to introduce Mark Yaxley, who's the CEO of SWP, Strategic Wealth Preservation, based out of the Cayman Islands, and one of the leading gold storage companies or bullion storage companies. So let me just give you a quick overview on Rocklink. Now, most of our clients know we're value investors, and we try to find a basket of great companies, usually 20 to 25 companies that are well positioned, well priced in the marketplace, and can grow above the market averages, and also protect your capital. So not only are we interested in growing your capital, but also protecting your capital. So we've got investments in the technology industry. We've got investments in financial services. We've got investments in consumer staple businesses, energy. But one of the areas that we've maintained right from the beginning of Rocklink, going back to 2010, is in the precious metals. We've got investments in energy also, but precious metals has been very important to us. And right now, we probably have 15, you'll notice in your portfolios, maybe 15 to 20% of your portfolio allocated to the precious metals sector. And there's ways of getting exposure to the precious metals. You can buy mining companies. So you can buy companies that are directly going out and finding the gold, drilling for gold, finding it, and then also ultimately getting it out of the ground and then producing the gold or silver or whatever commodity the mining company is looking at. Mining companies, though, are volatile and can be quite risky. It's not an easy business. And so we have a couple of mining companies in our clients' portfolios. Our largest gold-focused mining company would be Agnico Eagle, which is a really well-run company. We typically are looking for predictable, really well-run companies with storied histories and great assets in very politically safe areas. And so we have a couple other mining companies, but the majority of our precious metals exposure is actually in royalty businesses. And we've talked to our clients about this before. And those are really companies that are the investment bankers to the mining companies. So they provide capital and in return get a piece of the production or the profits or the smeltering returns. There's different ways that they earn their monies. But I think the long and short of it is you get a really diversified exposure across many, many mines, and you've got smart people allocating that capital, and you get very, cash flow rich returns for long periods of time without a lot of mining risk. And so we like that. So we own most of our exposures in that space. We also have some of our clients who own gold directly, and you can own that through various ETFs. You can own it through different mutual funds. In the case of ourselves, we would only buy a mutual fund or an ETF that's backed 1-for-1 with gold. In other words, it's not buying any derivatives or paper-based contracts. We don't trust those because when problems emerge, you want to make sure the gold is there, and you don't just have a contract that is closed on you, and then you get your cash and you don't get the gold. And so some of our clients have exposure to some of the Sprott funds, which are very good funds also. More and more of our clients are interested in actually buying the physical gold themselves. And so some have small amounts at home, but for larger amounts where you are concerned about safety and you want to buy in size and make sure that it's well protected for you, you really need to look at a well-run storage company, a company that's going to protect and hold the bullion for you, whether it's gold, silver, platinum, palladium. There's many things that they can hold for you, but we're primarily talking here really about gold and silver. And so one of the companies that we really like that I've gotten to know over the last couple of years, and we actually have 3 clients that have put money with this company, and that's SWP Cayman. And so that stands for Strategic Wealth Preservation, and it's based in the Cayman Islands. And it's really the only company that we've recommended if people are going to be storing gold to use. And so I thought it would be really great to have the CEO of the company come on and tell us and talk a little bit about that business so you can learn more about this business. It's a really fast-growing business and one that I think you're going to be quite interested in, and certainly one that we highly recommend for our clients who are going to be buying larger purchases in terms of bullion. So with that, I'm going to turn over the conversation now to Mark Yaxley. And Mark is the CEO of the company. And Mark, maybe you could just give us a quick history in terms of SWP, and so our clients will get a bit of sense on where you're coming from, and that's probably the best indication also where you're heading.
Well, thanks for the opportunity, Jonathan, and thank you for referring 3 of your clients over to SWP. That's a great honor to service them. SWP really got started back in about 2010. My two partners at the time, who were living in the Cayman Islands, had the idea of building a world-class storage facility and trade desk where people could buy and store gold and silver, physical gold and silver bullion. Um, in the Cayman Islands, Cayman had a long-standing history of financial services, but nobody was providing that particular service at the time. So what they did is they went and investigated different vaults in New York, in Panama, and in Miami, and they came up with the blueprint for SWP. Eventually, the company, the first facility that we operated out of, was built in 2014, and we opened our doors in early 2015. And at the time, we were only offering the Cayman Islands as our sole storage facility, where people could store their gold with us. And now, almost 10 years later, we offer 11 different locations worldwide. Of course, we still have our flagship facility in the Cayman Islands, and all of the transactions that our clients purchase and sell to us are processed through that flagship office, through the head office in the Cayman Islands. But we offer 10 other locations worldwide, throughout the United States, Canada, Europe, and even in Singapore. So the company's grown quite a bit. More growth to come. And I think especially, the market that we find ourselves in today, there's a lot of opportunity, both for investors and companies like ourselves.
Yeah, back in 2010, no, 2021, I'm sorry, I was able to see your first facility, and I noted that it was getting pretty full. And so wasn't shortly thereafter when some of the principals mentioned they were building a new facility, and I was able to see the new facility back, I think it was in April of this year, 2024, with another one of my partners, Jesse Vandermeer. We were down in the Cayman, in Grand Cayman, and it is one amazing facility. Boy, it really is like going into Fort Knox, and it's quite the facility, very impressive. And I think that's important for people to know too, that the amount of capital that was invested in the safety and protections that go into a vault like that is really more than they probably appreciate. The construction of that facility is really something else to see.
Well, definitely, because we had operated a facility previously, and obviously having visited multiple facilities over my career, I've been in the precious metal space since 2006. So I've done vault audits around the world. I've also met with other vault operators within our industry, coupled with our own research and lessons learned from the first facility. When it came time to build the second facility, we really had a good idea of what we wanted to achieve, and really that was a world-class facility in the Caribbean, which didn't exist. And I think we've achieved that. We've got two UL rated class 3 vaults in that new facility. The square footage is quite impressive. It's large enough to, we think, for another decade worth of growth. It also houses our sales, marketing, and trade desk. So like I said, all the transactions that are processed within SWP are actually processed through the Cayman Islands head office, which is really important for investors. Some people are mindful of where their information is being kept and where their transactions are taking place. And I think that's one, unique distinction that we have, is that everything is processed through the Cayman Islands head office. But a lot's to be said, Jonathan, as well, and because you've been there, about the island itself and about the jurisdiction, and that's certainly one of the selling points, aside from the security of the facility itself, is really the jurisdiction, the level of stability, the fact that the government and the people of the Cayman Islands understand that the financial services industry is their lifeblood. It's really what allows them to enjoy a high quality of life. You're talking about the highest GDP in the Caribbean. When you meet young Caymanians, they're very well educated. They go to school in the US and Canada, or even in Cayman, obviously, or in the UK. They come back to Cayman, they start businesses, they join the government. So it's a model that's working for Cayman, and we're just another benefactor of the Cayman Islands model right now.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out. We have an offshore fund that is based in the Cayman Islands. And as we've told our investors, the reason we want to be there, along with, I think, about 70% of the hedge fund market is actually based in the Cayman Islands. Is because of its safety and regulatory framework is second to none, really. It's really an impressive country, the Cayman Islands itself, and of course, Grand Cayman, where most of it is located. And so people sometimes they just have they have interesting ideas about the Cayman Islands. I think they come from Tom Cruise movies, and not necessarily accurate. But when you go down there, it is an amazingly well-run, well-oiled country, safe, and very much focused on the rule of law. Great parliamentary system. Of course, it's a British overseas territory, which is very important, and much safer than what has turned out to be even in the far east. You can think of the risk now with Hong Kong and places like that. And we'll get into putting down other regions, but there's geopolitical issues and stuff that really have not impacted the Cayman Islands at all, which is really important in terms of where you're going to be storing your wealth. Maybe you could also just talk a little bit about the insurance company you use. I know that again, if there was anything that went wrong, there's also it's important people know that you have great insurance and reinsurance on the facility.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, that's where the conversation starts when you're building a new facility. Obviously, you're thinking about bricks and mortar and security systems and ways to prevent physical loss. But really, where that conversation begins is on conference calls with the underwriters in London. In this case, we work with Marsh as our broker. And the beautiful thing about Marsh is that they have a specialization in precious metals vaults. So a number of their clients, or I should say, it's an area of business that they've specialized in for a while. So they have a number of clients who are businesses like SWP. So they understand when we speak to them about wanting to build a new facility, wanting to achieve a certain amount of insurance, they understand our language and they can bring that to the underwriters and communicate that very effectively. And so we just finished renewing our insurance policy, in fact. So it is underwritten by Lloyd's of London, which is the largest underwriting syndicate in the world, particularly when it comes to precious metals. They do 90+% of all precious metals underwriting in the world. So again, there's a good understanding there. We've just been approved for $800 million of insurance in Cayman. That can be increased on demand. The highest policy held in the market right now is $3 billion. So there's a lot of room for growth for us, and the facility is built to a spec where we should be able to achieve that. But basically, the insurance policy ensures all of our clients' physical holdings for the full replacement value against fire, theft, mysterious disappearance. Mysterious disappearance effectively means theft by employees or a situation where you simply cannot explain where the metal went to. And it even insures our clients against things like hurricanes. Obviously, being in the Caribbean, the weather systems can be something that you have to take seriously, and that's included in our insurance policy as well. So yeah, like I said, that's where the conversation often begins and it ends. So you start building your new facility around the guidelines and the specifications that are put forth by the insurance companies. They give you a pretty good idea of what they expect you and how they expect you to build something. And then if ever something goes wrong, those are the people you go to, obviously, if there is a problem. I'm happy to say we've never had to make a claim in almost 10 years of business, but we have a very strong policy underlying our clients' holdings.
Plus, I think people need to appreciate how heavy gold and silver are. You can't take a lot of it very easily, and in a small island, you just can't go anywhere with it. And so I think it's sometimes people have some false ideas. You can just sort of put all this gold in your pocket or put it in the back of a van. Well, you can't. It is very heavy. You need massive trucks and cranes practically to move it. But at any rate, that's another story. But maybe just a quick word then on the affiliates and global net. You talked about the different countries and the power of that. So if you're actually in Canada, I think you have a network, an affiliate in Toronto. People can actually, if they had physical gold, they actually bring physical gold to that facility, and then through a book entry, you can then move that gold literally and have it rearranged and put it into actually Grand Cayman in your vault there. So maybe just quickly a little bit about the power of that the affiliations that you have that give you even greater tentacles, global tentacles, even though the gold is vaulted in Grand Cayman.
Well, exactly. To your point, Jonathan, the tentacles. And we realized rather quickly back in 2015 when we were launching the business in Cayman that our clients, these are people that are quite diverse in terms of their holdings. They're quite sophisticated. They may do business in other parts of the world. They might have investments or land that they own in other parts of the world. And so they came to us and started asking us about storage in Canada, storage in the United States, Europe, and Singapore predominantly. So using Canada as an example, we offer two affiliate vaults. One is in Toronto and one is in Calgary, Alberta. So basically one servicing the East Coast and one servicing the West Coast for Canadians. And what you're describing is what we call a location swap, where a client can deposit gold to a facility in Toronto or in Calgary. We will then purchase that gold from them, credit them the equivalent amount of money, and then use that money to purchase the gold in Grand Cayman or any of the other vaults that we offer. So the same could be done, for example, if you want to do a location swap between Toronto and Singapore. It's an easy way of moving gold, and not having to physically ship it. Although we do offer logistics services if clients prefer to actually ship or deliver gold that they already own at home or maybe stored at a bank and have that delivered to Grand Cayman. We also facilitate that through our logistics team. Or of course, if they want to just keep it closer to home in Toronto or in Calgary and not necessarily offshore, then they have the option of depositing it. It's still stored under their SWP storage agreement. It's stored with SWP. Effectively, what we do is we rent space from the vault operators in Toronto and Calgary, and then we sublet it back to our clients. So we have clients that have holdings with us in multiple jurisdictions, and the benefit really is that they have one relationship with SWP, one assigned account manager that can oversee all their holdings and facilitate things like you described with a location swap if they decide to go ahead with that.
Okay, now the big question. We've seen gold on its ascendancy here. Of course, it built a base for quite some time. It was up quite high back in 2011 and then sort of settled back down 2016, had a little bit of a run up, and then 2020 again. But right now it's pretty strong, and we're now about 2,600 plus on the gold, and silver doing very well in excess of $30. So what's driving that market, Mark, from your perspective? Why precious metals? Why should investors look at this space? And are the best gains behind us, or are there opportunities going forward? I always talk about that, so I'm going to turn that over and get you to speak about those issues.
Yeah, it's been a really strong run for precious metals the last few years. I mean, you could argue that this all started with COVID back, in early 2020. We began this very lengthy bull run for gold, but there's obviously been periods where it's cooled off in between as well. But I think right now on a macro level, you've got a lot of geopolitical risk. You've got a fair amount of conflict. Obviously, there's major conflict in Europe with Russia invading Ukraine, Ukraine now retaliating in Russia. You've got the US basically in the midst of a trade war with China, and obviously there's some possible conflict that seems to be building up when it comes to Taiwan and what's going to happen there between the United States and China and Taiwan. And then you have the Middle East, which is escalating daily. Just over the past weekend, saw a major escalation where Israel was basically attacking Lebanon, and now that war is being fought on two separate fronts. So a lot of geopolitical risk. What that's doing is it is encouraging central banks to buy a lot of gold. So central bank buying has been very strong since COVID began. I think initially because central banks were hedging themselves against financial risk and inflation basically, and all kinds of chaos that was started with COVID and what it did to our financial system for a few years. And I think now we're on another, there's another dimension to that which is more focused on geopolitical risk. So then you have kind of the traditional hedge against inflation, not necessarily only for central banks, but for private investors. Gold does tend to hedge very well against inflation. There is a little bit of a lag. It doesn't happen immediately, but over a longer period of time, you'll see gold trending upwards during periods of inflation and even a little bit afterwards. And I think that's part of what we're seeing right now, and definitely one of the reasons that investors have been flocking to gold. And then you also have more on a micro level, on a personal level. One of the reasons, that people might be investing in gold is really whatever risks they perceive in their immediate circle of influence or in their domestic, whether it be in Canada or in the United States. And that could be, physical security, depending on where you live in the world. It could also be, you could be cautious or concerned about government oversight or the government having too much reach into your personal affairs and your finances. And for other people, it's just having too many eggs in one basket. If you've accumulated all your wealth in one particular province or state and you're looking for geo diversification of your assets, gold and silver, and offshore storage are one of the ways that you can achieve it. But I think macro, the geopolitical risk factor is quite high right now, and likely to remain high for the foreseeable future. So I don't think we've seen the all-time high for gold. I think there's always more potential upside for an asset class like gold.
Yeah, and as we talk to clients too, we're often, again, just reminding them that gold really is money. And if your confidence in fiat currency is weak, and that's because maybe they're printing it or there's too much debt behind it, we've got significant deficits, and the overall debts continue to rise right across most countries in the world. And in particular, the US, which is really sort of the reserve currency of the world, if you're talking about the US dollar. And I think that we've also seen a bit of the weaponizing of the U.S. dollar because of the problems in Europe, the Ukraine-Russia situation, and also in Israel. But that's led other countries to try to use the U.S. dollar a little bit less. And
Mm.
so, the BRICS countries and so forth. And the U.S. dollar is going to be important for some time. It's not going to disappear anytime soon. But I think a lot of people are saying, hey, you know what? If it's a little less relevant and a little less important, and countries like, Brazil and Russia and India and China aren't using the U.S. dollar as much and are actually trying to avoid it, trying to circumvent, go around it, that's only going to be good for gold. Because it'll put maybe a downward pressure on the U.S. dollar, and so there's an offset there. They're probably hearing a lot of that, I think, with some of your clients too. I suspect.
That's correct. Yeah, those countries are not satisfied with the status quo any longer. There's been plenty published on that subject, whether it be China or Russia. But you've seen other central banks, even like Singapore, a very developed first world country, financial hub, has been just adding to their gold reserves steadily over the last decade. And again, the more gold you bring to the table, more bargaining power you have. Obviously, it provides an alternative to the U.S. dollar, like you said. So I think there's very good reasons why, a lot of people, you hear our clients often kind of taking jabs at central banks and at government, but I always kind of counter that, these people are quite intelligent. They have an inside track on what's really happening in the world. And the fact that they are buying gold in record amounts, the central banks are, I think we could all take a hint from that. So I would agree with your comments, and I think that trend is most likely to continue so long as we see, kind of the instability and volatility that we're seeing worldwide right now.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is that a lot of the retail investors actually have not been buying gold or silver, and it's a relatively small market when you think of the size of the market relative to just a couple of tech companies. And so again, if people were to start to move some of their money into that area, yeah, you could see some substantial moves. So we'll have to see. But again, our recommendation again is it's an asset allocation. It's there for a bit of a hedge. We also want to obviously protect ourselves in terms of purchasing power, all of those sorts of things, and not to turn into a speculative investment. There's people who do speculate, but you have to know what you're doing. If you're going to speculate, then then you make sure you've got the investment paradigm and philosophy and approach to protect you on that side. Just a couple of quick questions as we end the discussion here. Thank you very much, Mark. That's exceptionally helpful. Just going through some of the mechanics. I know that in talking to a couple of our clients, as they've gone through the mechanics, you make it very easy. You've got a great sales team, great assistance when that happens. Maybe just sort of walk through a little bit about how that happens, and how you price it off of spot, things like that, just to give people a sense of how that would work if they're contacting you.
Sure. Yeah, and I'm happy to hear that your clients that you've referred thus far have had a good experience. I mean, one of the things that we pride ourselves on is the way that we treat people. We have a designated account representative for each client that's onboarded with SWP. So it is a personalized level of service. You're always going to be speaking to the same person when you call. The only time you wouldn't be able to catch them is if they happen to be on holiday, for example, or off sick. But otherwise, you will be speaking to the same person every time you contact SWP. And we think there's great value there because it builds a relationship and understanding for your personal situation. And we're never going to change that. We will always use that model. But the process is quite simple. There is an onboarding process, just like anything in life these days. You do have to provide us with some information, including passport and proof of address, so that we can onboard you. Once you're onboarded, your account is ready to go. That usually takes about 24 to 48 hours to be onboarded. Then we will assign you with an account representative. They're going to reach out to you by email. They'll also follow that up with a phone call so you can make contact with them. You can ask them any questions that you have about dealing with us or about buying gold and silver. But basically, you can book or purchase your gold or silver directly through that person, or you can also go online and do it through our online store. Just like buying something on Amazon, you can go online and buy up to $100,000 worth of gold. If you want to buy more than that, you can contact your account representative. Once you've locked in the transaction, and I'll comment in a second on the pricing, you just have to pay for it. Once the order is paid for, it will be then credited to your account. So the physical ounces will actually move from our inventory in the Cayman Islands or in another vault that we offer our clients to your own dedicated storage bin. And that's something we didn't talk about today, but it's really important, is that all of the physical precious metals that we sell our clients are completely allocated and segregated, meaning it's actual physical bars and coins, unique, that are allocated to them and segregated in their own designated storage bin. So it's segregated from the neighbor's assets. It's actually very important that you understand that. In terms of the pricing, everything is based off the universal spot price of gold. So you can see that spot price of gold or silver on many websites on the internet. And then when you're buying physical bullion, there's a premium above the spot price. And that premium includes the manufacturing of the product, the delivery of the product, and obviously any premium or profit margin that the dealer is earning on the transaction. And I think, speaking, very candidly, we're very fairly priced. We have to compete, even though we're based in the Caribbean, in a country, the Cayman Islands, that has a high cost of living. We have to compete with U.S. retailers and Canadian retailers, and therefore our pricing is very competitive in the North American space, and even more competitive compared to the European space, which tends to be a little bit more expensive. So I think we're very fairly priced, especially given the level of customer service that we offer our clients like yourself. It's kind of a boutique operation where we actually get to know people on a personal level and treat them with a high level of respect.
Yeah, and absolutely. And the larger the quantums they're buying, obviously they'd be a little less of a premium with the larger quantities that someone would be purchasing. Yeah, I thought I brought in just to the office here, here's the 20-ounce bar here
Oh, nice.
of gold here. So and I brought in two bars. They brought in 100-ounce silver. And of course, this thing is what, $3,500, I guess, today's market, US approximately. And this, I guess, would be about 53,000 US. And so you can see the difference in valuations. But over time, it's amazing how they continue to protect purchasing power. I don't have the chart here. I'm going to send it out to our clients later. But if you had a certain amount of how many ounces of gold would it take to buy a typical house, and it's amazing how stable that is over time. I mean, it bounces around, but when you're talking multiple decades, gold holds up. It maintains the purchasing power. It is really something else. So the last thing I'm going to ask is just subscribing to your YouTube channel. I just wanted to encourage people to go to the SWP Cayman YouTube channel. You can look it up. I think this is the name of it, and it has got hundreds, literally, of videos on there. You can see Mark speaking to many established players in the gold industry and economics and different conferences and things like that. So I think that's a great YouTube channel to be a subscriber to, and there's just such a wealth of information on there. So encourage people to go there. Okay, any last comments, Mark? Appreciate your time, and we hope to again encourage our investors to utilize your facilities even more, and as part of their asset allocation in protecting and growing their capital. Any parting comments there, sir?
Yeah, no, thank you for the YouTube channel plug. If the series that we created is called Inside the Vault. It's basically an educational series dedicated to precious metals, because we felt that education was the biggest piece missing for most investors to feel comfortable investing in physical gold and silver. So yeah, please go check out Inside the Vault, SWP Cayman. There's I think there's about 30 videos just on a variety of different subjects. But if you're new to physical metal, that will answer a lot of your questions. Obviously, we're here to answer anything that falls through the gaps there. You can call our customer service line. But yeah, just I always leave people with the same advice: is if you haven't yet started investing in precious metals, whether it be the miners, like you said, obviously there's mutual funds, ETFs, or physical gold and silver, start somewhere. You need to have some metal in your portfolio. It's an absolute must. And all I can say is it's done wonders, for my family and for some of my clients over the last 18 years that I've been in the market. Like you said, it's not meant to make you wealthy, but it will do a really good job protecting your wealth. I think that's the biggest benefit. And so you have to start somewhere. So, you might as well start with SWP. We'll take good care of you.
That's great. Thank you so much, Mark. Appreciate your time and all the best. Bye now.